Welcome back to the screen. I'm Jamie,
And I'm JJ.
and today we are going to review The Shining.
I'm excited. This movie is it's definitely on my top 10 list all time Halloween movies. This is the type of movie that I watch during the Halloween season, no doubt.
And there's some strange going-ons here too with the
Right,
lights.
I see that. Yeah, a little bit of a spooky factor for
Yeah.
sure.
Might be The Shining.
It might be some of the ghosts,
Yeah.
if they are ghosts.
If they
in
are.
there. Yep, yep.
Who knows what it may be? That's probably the lure about this film is just
Right, it's open to interpretation.
definitely.
There's so much speculation that has been done about this movie by so many different people over the years, but it's I think that it was actually the place was haunted. I think that they were ghosts because in the beginning, when Jack is interviewing with the guy at the hotel, he tells him that it was an Indian burial ground.
Right.
And that to me is enough because that's what was in the Poltergeist too. They built in the Poltergeist movie. They built that subdivision over an Indian burial ground, and that was crazy.
And I think there was something also about the elevator. It was like going down into like the basement.
Okay.
And had some type of spiritual connection there, and
Okay,
that's why
maybe.
there may be all that blood releasing through the hallways, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so there's a lot of different theories, a lot of different ways that you can look at it, I guess.
Right.
I think it's probably more than a ghost story. There's
Oh yeah.
it's a ghost story in my head, but I've not really explored some of the other things that may happen and that has happened in the movie. And so it's just a thriller. I think you just think about
It's a slow burn. It's
Yeah.
a slow burn, but it is a thriller.
Yeah.
It builds momentum as it goes. Yep.
Yeah. And so I really have enjoyed this movie. I did not see this when I was growing up. I think probably 10 years ago I saw it for the first time.
Okay.
Or maybe shy of 10
Right.
years ago. And so the first thing that I asked myself after I watched the movie was, why didn't I watch this sooner?
Right.
Because it is definitely a masterpiece in my mind.
It is.
And it is a very well constructed movie and story. I mean, it comes from Stephen King's novel,
Right.
but the movie is much different than the novel, even though I
course.
haven't read the novel.
Neither have I.
But-
I don't. I like Stephen King's stuff, but I've never read a Stephen King book. I've seen them on shelves, and they're like this thick.
Right.
I'm like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I would have to do the audio version.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so the only book that I've actually read, which of course I cheated because it was the audio version, unabridged, was Jurassic Park. And that
Okay.
sucker's like 10, 11 hours, and I'm like,
Right.
I'm glad somebody's reading it to me.
Right.
I may have to do that with The Shining,
Right.
with his novel. But the interesting part about The Shining, when Stephen King had to write the script for it as a requirement of adaptation, from his
Okay.
novel, was that he had to write the first draft. The
okay.
first draft. And so the director,
Stanley Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick, he
He didn't like it.
He rejected it.
He didn't like
threw
it, so
away.
they rewrote it.
Yeah.
He and somebody else rewrote it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny you mentioned that it was you consider it a masterpiece of a movie because when it was first released, nobody liked it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I say nobody. You know, I'm a lot. Most people didn't like it. It was only a limited release. It released on 10 screens, and it was the same weekend that The Empire Strikes Back was released. So there's no way it was going to do well up against that. And then on top of that, only 10 screens and I'm assuming that's in the U.S.
Yeah.
So it actually got panned, and he got nominated for 2 Razzie Awards. One for worst worst director, and the other for worst lead actress. And then it took people years to come back around to it and watch it and rewatch it, and now it's just got this huge following. And
And all that-
I like it. I think it's a masterpiece as well. It's not something I'm going to watch, like on the regular, but I'll watch it probably when Halloween creeps up. I start getting into the Halloween mood, and I'll break it out, and we'll watch. Matter of fact, I have a copy, so I liked it so much that I went out, and this is the DVD, not the Blu-ray, but this is both. This is The Shining and Doctor Sleep right there. So part 1 and what most consider part 2, the 2-film collection.
Right.
So yeah, I had to break it out the other night and rewatch it.
The thing about reviews is you always got to remember it's someone else's opinion.
Right.
Or awards even.
Right.
It's someone else's opinion that this awards or D awards.
Sure.
So I from looking at his way, his style of movie making, I think of course he's perfectionist. He is a huge perfectionist.
Yeah.
He did scenes many times.
Tons of retakes.
Scenes, not like
Tons of
just
retakes.
parts of scenes, but scenes many
Right.
times. And he really gave it to Shelley.
Right.
And
He actually it was said that it was almost like borderline psychological abuse. Like he was, domineering, he was condescending, and so Kubrick, from the outside looking in, you would think, oh, he's just being a jerk.
You're right.
But the interpretation that has come to be from my understanding, is that he was doing that to put Shelley in that psychological place where she needed to be for her character, and then he kept her there in that frame of mind throughout filming. And she actually had to have a breather afterwards, and after filming was over, it took a while for her to recover from that.
Even during filming, she fell ill a lot during this. She had her hair falling out, hunks of hair. There are scenes of behind-the-scenes footage of Shelley showing the director, here hunks of hair, and of course he only showed one hair that came out of her head, and so there is also a scene behind the scenes of her lying down on the floor of the set, and blankets being put over her, and someone had referred to her having a mental breakdown.
I believe
and they were trying to take care of her,
right,
laying there. I guess she may have felt cold or whatnot, and just making her as comfortable as possible. And so
and it was
doing those types of scenes over and over and over again.
Yes.
That would
be
take
very emotionally and physically taxing.
something that would take a minute on screen takes probably 2 hours in total, or more, or even over a period of days.
Hours and hours.
Hours and hours and hours. And so some of the interviews that I've heard from Shelley is that she was talking about the director, and she never really was angry at him. She respected him,
Right.
and it was surprising to see, because with all the other stuff that comes out years later about directors or actors, and how they work, and how people don't like this person or that person, how they work and all this. She really was respectful about it. She was like, he pushed you, he pushed me, he pushed me, you know.
Right.
And so you do these takes over and over and over again until you're sick of it, and you do those few takes where you're sick of it, and then after that, it's like it's all new again when you're starting the next take.
Right.
And so at that point, you know the script, you know what you're doing, and therefore it allows you to do the scene perfectly,
Right.
the way that the director envisioned.
Right.
So there's something to that.
Right.
I don't know if it's for every movie, you
Right.
know, but it sure pays off when you watch the movie.
Right. Well, as far as the script goes, they didn't stick to it. It was constant rewrites, so much so that Jack Nicholson apparently stopped learning his lines, stopped memorizing his lines because he knew that it was going to change. And so he just rolled with it each day. And I think that's the way I would have done it too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know, after, because this went on for 13 months.
Right.
They filmed this for well over a year.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's like, okay, well, why even bother? It's going to change 20 times tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
Yeah. And usually the production process back then for movies would be 2 to 3 months, maybe 4.
Right.
So there's a lot of work.
Yeah, this thing went on forever.
I think now, I haven't even looked to see how long a movie takes nowadays, but like a month or two.
That's probably about right.
A month or two.
I mean, it's depending on what your budget is and how long it is. You might get it in 2 months, but I think it's in the range of 3 to 4 months still.
And even the rewrites, we're thinking, since we're young, youngish, that they just typed on the computer and all this, no, it was a typewriter.
Right.
Someone had to sit there on set, top, 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 and mistakes and all, and they didn't have copy machines, so another page had to be written the same, for the next actor, and
right,
and just all this work,
Yeah, it was a lot of man hours.
Yeah,
it was a lot of work hours for sure. What's wild about this is the actual movie, the book, rather. The book was inspired by a nightmare that Stephen King had when he and his wife were staying at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, and they were staying in room 217. And the nightmare was about this was in 1974, and the nightmare was about a demonic possessed fire hose chasing his son down the hallway of the hotel. And apparently the hotel was haunted. There's been a few reports of, there's like a dog that people have seen, a ghost dog, and then another apparition that people have seen. So that's pretty wild.
Right.
That all it took was one dream, one nightmare, and Stephen King was he when he woke up from the nightmare, he went out. It was reported that he went out on the balcony and was smoking a cigarette and mulling it over, and then he had the framework for it. And there's some reports that say that he had the idea for a while, and the original idea was to put the family in like an amusement park or fairgrounds or something like that. But he couldn't figure out how to get them trapped in there,
Right.
so it wasn't going to work.
Yep.
And then it was like, okay, a hotel. This works. So I thought that was pretty wild. And when they were filming, at the Timberline Lodge, which of course is the actual name of the hotel that's not called the Overlook Hotel in real life. So the Timberline Lodge, when they were filming there, they actually, and this is one of the rumors, again, the whole rumor mill, you just never know what's fact or fiction about this, which is another thing that I love.
And it was a fear of the hotel.
It was a fear of the hotel that if they filmed it and they had room 217 in there, that people would not want to stay in room 217. So they asked Kubrick to change it to room 237.
Because room 237
Didn't exist. It wasn't in the hotel.
So yeah, that's crazy to think about now because that would be a drawing
It
factor.
would be a draw
And
now. People
I
would pay
think-
extra
I
to
think
stay.
also it was probably would have become a drawing factor in the 80s.
Yeah, I
Once
mean,
you
decades
see the
later.
film, it's like, oh, I want to stay in 237, and you find out there was no 237.
Right, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, and it would almost be smart for the hotel to actually just make one 237. Be like, change it up. Be like, hey, here you go.
Especially in
Stay in
Halloween
this
season,
room.
just
an extra $100. Yeah.
change up the number of one room, But yeah.
Right.
Interesting fact, though, that we both saw that the title came from the John Lennon
song. Yeah, Instant Karma. And I love John Lennon. I mean,
Shine on.
Yes, we all shine on. Yep. And that's, that was, Lennon came out with that song in 71. And of course, King had the Nightmare in 74. And I think the book came out in 76. If I'm remembering that right, 76 or 76.
Don't recall that.
I think it was 76.
Yeah.
And then the movie, The Shining, came out in 1980.
77.
Was it
Stephen
77?
King's.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it came out in 77, and then the movie came out in 80. I was born in 81. So you said earlier that you didn't watch it as a
Right.
child for good reason.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
so actually the actor that played Danny, they screened 5,000 kids to be Danny over a 6-month period, and finally settled on that one actor. And when they were filming it, Kubrick made sure to tell him that they were filming a drama.
documentary,
It
yeah.
was like, no, I thought it was a drama, like a drama movie.
documentary,
Okay, a
yeah.
drama. Okay, so he didn't know that it was a horror movie.
Yeah.
And that's wise, because that would, he was 6
Yeah.
or 7, and he was chosen specifically because of his ability to concentrate for an extended period of time. So he was able to focus like none of the other kids could, apparently.
It's fun that Danny kept his name for, his character's name was Danny.
Right.
And his real name was Danny.
And Jack
Nicholson
is Jack Torrance.
Jack Torrance,
Yeah.
just like Batman.
Okay.
And so before Jack Nicholson became the Joker, his name was Jack Napier.
Okay.
So it was very, very similar, there. And so I looked up today to see if Jack had any other movies where they called him by Jack,
Okay.
And it's only The Shining and Batman that he got to keep his name. So that's probably easier for an actor.
I would
maybe.
imagine so.
And maybe
yeah.
even for Danny too,
Right.
or it may have been just the coincidence that Danny got the part of
that
Danny.
it worked out. Yeah. And I've seen that a couple times in
Yeah.
movies. So that's not the only one, but it's
Right.
definitely not the norm.
Right.
At all. So apparently, and it's again with these scenes, it's the opening scene, right? One of the opening scenes where the blood's coming out of the elevator doors, right? So they filmed that on a miniature. And because how could you have that? How would you release that much blood or whatever it was, red water, whatever it was?
Right.
How would you be able to do that on an actual scale and clean all that up and everything? So it made sense to do it on the miniature.
From what my understanding was that it was real. It was a full size. And that they had to clean it up several times to get it right. And it took over a year to get it just right.
Right. Yeah. Well, I knew it was the year part, but
Yeah.
I thought it was. And again, this is the great part about this movie is there's so much speculation about it.
Yeah.
But it's the way I understood it was that it was filmed on a miniature, and Kubrick wanted that to be in the trailer. And the people in charge, the authorities, said, nope, that's too much blood. You can't use that in the trailer. So he was like, oh, it's just rusty water. It's fine. So then they were like, oh, it's just rusty water. Okay, you can have it. Sure, put it in. And that's ridiculous to me that he found that loophole like
Yeah.
that. And they bought it, and then
Yeah.
he did it. So it's
It's
crazy.
rusty water.
Right.
Pipes need to be cleaned.
Big time. Big time.
Why do you have rusty water in an elevator in
Yeah,
the first place? Yeah.
that's doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me why they would have been like, Yeah, that checks out.
One of the things that I saw and discovered was that Stanley liked to mess with props.
Okay.
And so there was the scene where Shelley comes to Jack, while he's typing or asleep or whatever, wakes him up, and there's like this chair behind him. And so as they're flip flopping, the angles,
Right.
the camera, the chair then disappears.
Right.
And so Stanley was known to move props out or in or change them around too.
Okay.
There's also in Danny's room a little decal on the door of Dopey from the Snow White
and the Seven
and
Dwarfs.
the Seven Dwarfs. When the doctor leaves, Dopey is not on that door
Okay.
when they close it.
Right.
And so someone removed that, or either they filmed it and it wasn't there, and then they decided to add
it,
Dopey,
yeah.
or it was symbolic that he wasn't Dopey, in the head,
Right.
that something was going on other than just
And
craziness.
I knew that props had been taken out of scenes after you see them in, but I thought it was like to give like the haunted effect.
It could be.
Like to make it, like, okay, this place is haunted and what you think is there isn't really there.
Right.
And so I mean there's that side of it, and then the other side would go, oh well, that's just poor production value on their part for not catching that,
Right.
because that should have been correct. And so I mean I would have to think that as much of a perfectionist as he was, that it wasn't that it wasn't them getting relaxed on their stuff and be like, we forget
Right.
it, whatever. I think that was definitely by design,
Yeah, definitely.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be both ways, but I'm leaning more towards that it was, on purpose.
Right.
That he did these things, that they were symbolic, that they were, that things were up at the hotel,
Right.
and that normal things weren't, in place, but the paranormal
Right.
was in full effect.
Yeah,
there.
because that's how the book was.
Yeah.
The book was, and again, admittedly, I didn't read the book. I might go back and read it at some point one day in the future. But in the book, apparently, it's a ghost story, and it's haunted.
Yeah.
Again, part of being on an Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
That seems like that's a running theme in horror and haunting movies, and so in the movie, Kubrick made it more of like a psychological part. There's only a
Right.
couple scenes in there where you think it's like, oh, this is an actual haunting.
Right.
In the room 237 scene, of course.
Yep.
But most of the other scenes could be interpreted as, Jack going crazy. And
True.
is it just him going out of his mind? So that's the way that Kubrick wanted to present it, was more of a psychological
Right.
part of, the darker side of the human psyche.
And I'm thinking also that it could have been like demon possession, with
Right.
Jack.
Right.
That, a demon was taking over him, his thoughts and everything,
Slowly
and
but
turning
surely.
him.
Yep.
And that Danny is sensitive to, paranormal things,
Sure.
and the spiritual side of things a little bit more, as we see people have that, ability,
Right. The shine.
and the shine, yeah, is
Yep.
what they described it as. And so, and so we see that Jack turns, and the interesting thing about that is that when we first see the movie, he's always wearing green, Jack
Okay.
Torrance.
Right.
It's only until when things get really interesting that he has that red coat on.
So it's like a change in him,
so, yeah,
and he
it's like
changes how he
red.
dresses. Okay.
And so,
Yeah, because his tie was green whenever
Right,
he's interviewing, and the guy's telling him the story about all of it.
and the tie was also designed kind of like the
It
maze.
did. It has the pattern
Yeah.
in it. It has the design in it. It's got a lot of depth to it, and it definitely looked like it could have been the hedge maze.
Yeah.
built in there. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
And the hedge maze, was another thing that I think was not in the novel, or it wasn't.
So in the novel, they were animals. There wasn't a maze. It was hedge animals. And when you had your back turned to them, and when you weren't paying attention to them, they came to life and started to come get you.
Yeah.
And apparently that I would have to imagine that wasn't going to translate well in film.
Claymation.
Right. It was something like that. So Kubrick probably, he figured that out and replaced it with the maze, which definitely would have more of a psychological feel to it because you get lost in there. And they say in there, the guy, he's giving them the tour, and he says, don't go in there unless you've got an hour to spend to find your way out.
And even, I think, wasn't it Stanley that said that he wouldn't be able to get lost or something like that? I think somewhere where I saw in a documentary or whatever was that he was telling everyone on set that there's no possible way that he could get lost. So they forced him into it.
Okay.
And he couldn't find himself out.
Okay, I believe it. Yeah. I mean, it would take hours and hours. I mean, it looked massive.
And these behind the scenes was so funny because it's like you're walking, you see parts of the hotel that they reconstructed, or that they constructed for the set, and then they're walking down through these hallways, and then all of a sudden they enter into another studio that is the hedge maze. And it totally looks like you've just walked into another room, but looks outside, it looks cold and and snowy and all that, and it's just it's a funny thing.
Yeah. So most of the movie was filmed in London, in the studio. Yeah. They actually the outside sets for the Overlook it's like a shell. So in the movie, they just would build like the facade of the side of the hotel that you were going to see, and the rest of it was scaffolding and everything behind it, just holding it up. So yeah, most of it was filmed in studio. Yeah. Actually, 2 of the sets caught fire at some point, and so that's one of the behind the scenes snippets that I saw had a picture of Kubrick standing in front of it laughing. Yeah, and so I guess the irony of it is in the book, the hotel burned down. So in the movie, when they're making it in production, 2 of the sets burned.
Right.
So that definitely set them back in time frame, time wise.
And I want to say that if I'm recalling correctly, that one of the sets was like the hedge maze that caught on fire.
Okay.
Too. And so the hedge maze, though, the snow part of it, that was made out of styrofoam, broken pieces of styrofoam, and salt. Okay. And that's what made the snow.
Okay.
And that's interesting to know too, because I mean, it doesn't
get it in your eyes.
It doesn't melt. You don't have to drop the temperature down, to freezing, for real snow to be blown, or even if I don't even know if you would been able to blow snow, from a snow blower, back then in the 70s. Maybe you could. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, you did things like that, invented things for these types of movies because it's never been done before. Right. And so this type of movie, I don't think has ever been done before that time, to that degree of filmmaking. Right. And so they put a lot of work into this, and to make each scene look really good from start to finish.
Oh, for sure. The production values are fantastic in this movie.
Some of the things that are funny though, at the very beginning, is it opens up very simply. It almost looks today as if it was like a made-for-TV movie. Okay. Because of the titles that scroll up, and they're just so simple. They're not like anything that some graphic artist made up for today's movies. Right. It's just a simple scroll, The Shining, and then starring and
Right.
it just goes up, and then you have these camera moves. And back then, of course, we didn't have drones,
Right. So
video
it's a
drones.
helicopter.
These are helicopters. And even if you look at some of these shots, and I don't recall about The Shining, I think I may have noticed it at some point when watching it. You see the blades of the helicopter
No doubt.
a little bit
Right.
on like the edge of the top of the screen.
Right.
And so it's very hard to get those shots too, because you're in a moving
Right.
vehicle, copter,
Right.
that's swaying back and forth, air currents and turbulence and all that stuff. And so, trying to get that steady shot is sometimes not possible.
Right, right. And you talked about the production values, like looked like it could have been like made for TV. So apparently Stephen King disliked it so much, and this is very common knowledge that
Yeah.
he couldn't
Yeah.
stand
Yeah.
the movie version of it. He eventually made a made for TV miniseries out of it.
Shining.
And released it in '97, and he stayed true to the novel in this. And I watched a few snippets of it. I want to say that I have seen this as a child. I remember as like my early teen years,
Yeah.
of course, 97, I was, 16, 17. So,
Right.
I mean, I do remember seeing this, because when I saw the clip about the kid was outside, Danny was outside, and you got the animals, the animals,
Yeah.
and they started coming towards him, and I was watching it now. It doesn't hold up.
It doesn't
well.
hold up,
It
no.
doesn't, and they're not very ominous. It's like, oh, some bushes are coming at me. Oh, what do I do?
Some man in a
that's,
suit,
yeah, right.
in a
So
leaf
anyway,
suit,
so I get why it was
No.
changed in the movie, and I like the fact that they did change it into the hedge maze versus these animals, because that would have totally thrown everything off in the movie. Again, it would have changed the tone. I'm glad they did it the way they did it and changed it to a hedge maze instead of the animals.
I know that there's a lot of scenes that future movies have used from just
Oh, for sure.
from The Shining. Jurassic Park for the kitchen scene with the velociraptors.
Okay.
When Tim runs towards one of the cabinets and trying to hide himself in
Get
the
in it.
cabinet. Now, Danny did that.
He did.
And so that's one of those scenes. And then I've got to take it back to Batman, too.
Of course.
Batman
Always.
Batman the Animated Series.
Right.
So there is a cartoon episode of the Riddler.
Okay.
And so it's the Greek mythology and stuff like that. And Batman and Robin is going through a hedge, maze as well. So you've got to call back, like, maybe they were thinking about The Shining when they were doing that episode. Like,
Right.
let's do this,
Well, it's made it into pop culture so much so that even the carpeting, the carpet has become iconic. You can buy anything you want merchandise wise. You can buy underwear, the rug itself. I mean, you know, mugs, whatever you want in the carpeting, and it's even made it into children's animation, because in the movie Toy Story, they actually put the carpet
Sid's house.
in Sid's house in the upstairs hallway. You can see it when Buzz and Woody are escaping, running down the hallway. The shining carpet pattern is in Sid's house in Toy Story, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So apparently the director of Toy Story was a huge Shining fan, and he wanted that little Easter egg in there. So
and even the movie,
pretty wild.
the movie Ready Player One.
Right.
There are a lot of movie
yeah.
references there, and one of the movie references is The Shining, even though most of that is CGI, detailed CGI, and recreations of it. It pays homage to The Shining. It pays homage to Back to the Future as well. And,
so many references. Yeah, it's just
so
many pop culture references throughout that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they go into the mansion or in the hotel,
and that was actually when I wanted to watch The Shining after watching Ready Player One.
Really?
So it's like
so
whenever
that
Ready
inspired
Player
you.
One came out on digital or whatnot, then I was like, I've got to see The Shining, so I know exactly what its references is.
Right.
You know.
That's
So, yeah.
interesting. Okay.
So I got to thank Ready Player One,
Okay.
for me wanting to
Cool.
watch
I
The
love that
Shining.
movie.
Yep.
That's good.
Yep.
I'm anticipating Ready Player Two.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that
Me
that's
too.
as good when it comes out, for sure. Um, so Jack is going, like, you never know, like, if Jack is crazy from the beginning and it just, like, being out there and the place being haunted sends him over the edge. Does he become possessed? What is it?
What?
So it's, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna put there whenever he visits the hotel for the first time.
Right.
He tells Wendy it was like deja vu, but it was crazy the amount of deja vu that he had, like he had been there before.
Right.
And so that's the whole thing that they hone in on when he's at the bar, and all of a sudden, all the characters from the hotel, the paranormal part of it, the ghosts, I guess,
So, like, they all know him.
they all know him as the curator, right? And so, in some rhyme or reason, it's like a past life almost.
Yeah, it's a reincarnation reference
It's some
for sure.
sort of thing
Because
like that.
if he was out there and he was there in the 20s, whenever, because and spoilers, of course, this whole thing is about
yeah.
spoilers. But at the very end of the movie, and we're jumping back and forth, obviously.
Right.
So they have the picture, and they just ended up, superimposing him in the picture. They were going to take a picture of all the people with him and everything, and get everybody dressed up. And they were like, no, it's just easier to superimpose him on there. So they did that. But it's like dated in what, 22, 23, 1922, 23.
Yeah.
So
So
he would have
over
had to
100
been
years
there.
ago.
Yeah, he would have had to been there and then died and then be born and then come back full circle when he's, going to, taking his family up there, and then he gets the deja vu feeling, and then, of course, all the ghosts are like, hey, glad to have you back, buddy,
You've always been the curator.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to, him being crazy or not, so when he's writing, because he goes out there to write, but then suffers writer's block.
Right.
And there's the scene where he's throwing the tennis ball up against the wall, and it's...
And one detail here, we were talking about Indian burial ground. When he's throwing that tennis ball,
It's got the
it's
the Indian
the
pattern
Indian
on the
patterns.
wall.
Yeah, Indian patterns on the wall.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Which he's throwing that ball up against the wall, and me being someone that is having had made repairs on walls, I'm thinking, why is he doing that? The paint's going to get chipped. He's going to mess up the plaster or the sheetrock or whatever. That is probably plaster then. That probably wasn't sheetrock. So I'm thinking he's going to damage that building. He's going to damage those walls. They're going to have to build the scaffolding. This is the way my realist, logical brain works, and fix all that.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was funny to me. So yeah, when he's writing and he finally, he's like gets in the zone, and she comes and she comes and interrupts him, and when she finds out what he's been writing, all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. When they released that in the English markets, that's what it was. But they actually, Kubrick changed it. And I again, this is stuff that, we don't live in these other countries, so
Right.
we didn't
So we
know.
didn't know.
So in Germany, when they released it over there, instead of the all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, actually in Italy, it's the morning has gold in its mouth. And that doesn't make any sense at all to me.
No.
The morning has gold in its mouth.
It's got to make more sense to
them. Right. And so for Germany, it was never put off until tomorrow what can be done today. I mean, that's sage advice. That's don't procrastinate, basically. And in Spain, it was no matter how early you get up, you can't make the sun rise any sooner. And I mean, I'm not exactly sure where they're going with that.
Right.
The last one that they did in France was what you have is worth much more than what you will have. So, again, I think that all work and no play make Jack a dull boy would have worked in all of those markets.
Could have.
because they would it would have translated. They would have
Yeah.
gotten it. You know, you
But
got to
may-
rest. You can't work all the time.
But this phrase, though, I've got to think that this is an English phrase. That it's
Something that we would use that
that
other
we would
countries
use
don't
that
use.
others
Yeah,
would
they
be like,
wouldn't
"What
understand the
heck?"
saying. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Why would you say
they
that?
would have to find something similar that
Right.
meant basically the same effect, I guess.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
It gave the same
So,
vibe
yeah.
of the movie. Yeah.
I would
the
have to be
psychological
curious,
part of
you
it.
know, if anyone's watching from other countries, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Drop
Yeah.
a comment. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
like, do these make sense, you know, to you? Does our American phrase not make sense, you know, to you, or
Right.
whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. Whenever I found that out, I was like, you never really think much about that, and I guess in most movies they would just translate it to whatever language it is and leave it the way it is. But Stanley Kubrick wanted it to be different for each market that it was released in, and found those phrases in their cultures that would connect with the vibe of the movie and make it make sense. So it's pretty wild. So
a lot of deep thought, a lot of advanced thought, you know.
Yeah,
in making this
he
movie.
knew what he was doing. He was a master of his craft for sure.
And he wasn't afraid, just like the script changes. He wasn't afraid to do that because, in his mind, this is not the film that I want unless I need it. You know, I need to make these changes. You know?
Right.
And so he did those changes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we got the movie that we got today.
Right.
If he had stuck with the script, you know, would it have been as great?
No, for sure not. No, definitely not. I mean, you have to have the artistic license whenever you're going into that. And so that's just part of it, is getting it right, changing the scene, letting the actors ad lib. So again, ad-libbing, going back to the classic, here's Johnny.
Yep.
Yeah, that wasn't in the script. This is right here. This is when he said that wasn't in the script. So that was part of the, and this again is insane, that was just one of the 127 takes that they did for this one scene. And apparently Jack Nicholson was so over it that he said he would never work with Stanley Kubrick again because of all of the retakes and the retakes and the retakes. So
the funny thing about the scene here, of course, you've got all kinds of different movies or TV shows parodying this scene of here's Johnny and with the creepy psycho, type of scenes,
Right.
Family Guy, I think, is one of them.
Sure.
And
I have
several,
no doubt.
several others, that have done, parodies of it. But the true reference nowadays is pretty much lost.
Right. But it's Johnny Carson.
It's Johnny Carson.
Yeah, here's
because
Johnny.
Ed McMahon,
Yeah.
here's Johnny.
Right.
As the introduction to Johnny Carson.
So one of the biggest pop culture references that comes to mind for me is The Simpsons. So in one of the Treehouse of Horror episodes in The Simpsons, they don't call it The Shining, they call it The Shinning. And Bart, at one point, because it's groundskeeper Willie, is telling Bart, you've got the shinning, and you gotta, so, and then Bart calls it a shining, one time, and he goes, no, it's not that, it's the shinning.
It's shinning.
So that was definitely
my
part,
shin.
yeah, so that was part of, they knew that they couldn't get away with calling it the shining legally, so they had to change it enough, and that was the joke. Was that Bart called it The Shining, and groundskeeper Willie was like, no, you can't call it that. So anyways, so I love that reference, and I may have to go back and find that Treehouse of Horror, because again, getting into, we're recording this approaching Halloween, and getting into the Halloween mood. We've been watching some of the Treehouse of Horror episodes at home, and so I'll definitely have to go revisit that one. So in the book, so the axe scene here, in the book, it was a croquet mallet that Jack used to attack his family. So in this, because Jack Nicholson had a volunteer firefighter background, they let him use an axe. And because of that, instead of using a prop door, they actually let him use they used real
Right.
doors in this. And how many?
How many takes, though?
Well, it was 127 takes. 127 times
127
chopping through a
times.
door.
But they took it took them 60 doors
60 doors. That's insane.
to get the scene right the way that Kubrick wanted it.
Right. That's insane. That's a lot of doors. That's a lot
That
of wood to
is.
clean up.
Yeah.
That's after he goes cut, and then you're in
But
there. Just clean this up.
I get it though. You know, it's like he wanted that one scene that he apparently got, and the wood had to cut just right.
Right. Everything had
And
to chip just right.
And so, you know, I get it why it took that many doors. I mean, today you just throw in a little bit of CGI. You make the door like it is to break away,
Right.
and then you do like a little tap on it, you know,
Right.
and it's a fake axe. I don't know if this was a real axe or not that he was using, but like today it would be totally fake, you know, a fake axe. And then you just do a little CGI magic here, and the pieces just fly off.
Right.
And
right,
there
right.
you have it, where here's Johnny.
Yeah. So going back to all of the acting and how he was just maniacal, he could shift from being, you know, just somber and then you just had that crazy look, you know. And in the scene where he's in the ballroom and it's just him and the bartender, the first time he goes in there, it's just him and the bartender. They filmed that. They started at like 8 o'clock in the morning and didn't stop until like 10:30 at night.
Oh, geez.
Filming that. And it's only again like a minute or two, you know, in there. So that's a grueling day. That's a, you know, 12 to 14 hour shift, you know, a day just to get that one little scene right.
Right.
And that to me is just bananas.
Yeah.
So what was cool about the ballroom, just the scale of all of that. So the scale of the hotel, there's no way that it all would have laid out and been correct. They had to. There's people, you know, the fan folk that have been, you know, dissecting this. There's no way that the layout would have worked. Because these rooms were too big. They would have overlapped into this.
Right.
The office wasn't, you know, there's no way they could have gotten a window in the office based on where it was and the layout of the you know, the hotel. And so the ballroom scene, when he actually comes in, they filmed that in silence. All of the actors were told to mime like they were speaking.
Right.
So they weren't actually saying anything.
Mime, but not. I heard the director say, okay, pretend like you're talking and do not nod, because it's easy for us, you know, when you're pantomiming, you know, speech.
Right. Yeah.
And do that, you know. He didn't want nods. He just wanted.
He just wanted them, and that probably added a creepy layer there, you know, just a layer
And
of
it
the
did.
psychological part.
I looked at that scene again, and it was like, these people are unsure. They're kind of. Some of them are like frozen.
Right.
Just about, you know, and they don't know exactly what to do or say, you know, or pantomime, you know. But there, you know, there's a lady on in the chair, you know, she's just.
I may have to go rewatch it just for that. But that's the ballroom area, the ballroom scene. That's what you were referencing in Ready Player One. So you've got the elevator with the blood in Ready Player One, pretty sure, and then the ballroom where they're all in there. They're dancing in Ready Player One, and so it's, you know, it's got a different feel to it,
Right.
In that. But yeah, that was just the way that the whole thing was put together was pretty impressive. You know, just the production of it, and you know how the scale of the hotel. You know how it felt big. It felt big, but it also felt isolated.
Right.
Because it was isolated. It was up there in the mountains. You know,
And they were
so it
closed
was
to
easy
the winter.
to get cabin fever. Yep. So, as far as that goes again. Was it a psychological part where he gets cabin fever and he goes crazy, or was he slowly being possessed by and influenced by these ghosts and potential whatever made demonic entities may have been out there? So, as far as the ending goes, they filmed a few endings, and they screened it. That was the first screening when they had the original ending in there, and it was the cure.
Hospital.
Yeah, it was in the hospital, right? And so Danny's playing a board game with one of the nurses, and they come to tell Shelley,
The hotel manager.
Yeah, the hotel manager comes to tell her that they never found Jack's body.
Right.
Which then you go, okay, well, did he go back into the hotel? Did he go into the great beyond?
Yeah.
Where did wolves get him?
Yeah.
I mean,
There's actually out there on YouTube. There is a AI reconstruction of the last scene that is
Okay.
not. It's been destroyed.
okay,
It's actually been the legend. I guess
right.
there's a lot of like, is it out there or is it not, or
Right.
is this the truth? Is this not the truth, or whatever?
Sure.
There's a lot of stories out there, but the story goes that the last scene was purposely destroyed by Kubrick.
okay,
And so nobody has any copies of it or
Wow.
whatnot, and even the script. But somehow this guy had that portion of the script that he reconstructed.
Well, all I've
And-
seen is the images.
Yeah.
Like the stills. Somebody took pictures,
Yeah.
and it's just so.
and part of the hospital scene when the owner of the hotel is with Wendy, he's telling her, you must come to my California residence
Right.
and stay, and I won't take no for an answer. And then he walks out, he sees Danny one last time, he gives him the tennis
He
ball.
gave him the tennis ball. Right.
It's just like, what?
Yeah.
This is a true sequel if they ever kept that
Right.
scene in there.
Right.
Oh my goodness! I wish
Maybe it's
we
the
had
tennis ball that would bring him back.
maybe
Maybe the ball was possessed.
maybe from the two girls, the twin girls.
Right, the twin girls. So so in the twin girls, they were the children of the guy that actually, he's the one that they tell the story of in the beginning.
Yeah.
Of he went crazy, and whether he got cabin fever or not, and he chopped up his family and then
Mr.
killed
Grady.
himself. Yep. And so he, again, you see the twins in a few scenes. It's interesting that in a ton of the merch for this stuff, it's the reference to the twins. There's a Mad magazine where they made their spoof of The Shining, and on the cover of it is the twins. And again, a lot of the merchandise, it's the twins. They were only in a few scenes, just a few little parts of the movie, but because they were instrumental in the groundwork of the movie,
Right.
they were the original family that got murdered. And so they became part of the lore, and it's interesting that they became so prevalent,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're the one that gets hacked up and they're telling legends and stories about it, then it would have to be.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be in there. Yeah, it was a wild movie.
It was.
Again, I'm going to go back and watch the Simpsons part of it in the Treehouse of Horror.
And it's just it's almost like a parallel of what Mr. Grady did and what Jack was trying to do to his family.
Right.
And so
The axe.
he almost did it. And so Mr. Grady was like, you must correct, her.
Oh, yeah, they were
You must
corrected. Yes.
be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could remember is I think that when they made the first Haunted Mansion movie,
Okay.
what's his name? Terrence Stamp, who played what did he play? He played in the Haunted Mansion.
Okay.
And so he was one of the ghosts, that was trying to manipulate the family that had come to visit, Eddie Murphy and the others. And so he kind of spoke spooky and
Very ominous.
in that
Yeah.
tone, like
Very
Mr. Grady,
foreboding.
like
Yes.
Mr. Grady. It must be corrected.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Very matter of fact.
Yeah.
Yes. Very. Yeah. That's.
So, I mean, even the Haunted Mansion. I'm sure that they were like, we want that character to resemble Mr. Grady.
Probably.
yeah.
I mean, there's so many references throughout pop culture to The Shining. It would be impossible to catch them all and to see them all. I mean, it's that movie. Again, it only opened in 10 theaters, and so it had to simmer, and people had to come back around to it,
Right.
and now it's ingrained in
Kind of
our
like
culture.
Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars was the first of its kind, on the big screen, and nobody had seen anything like that before, and people had to warm up to it, and even the actors themselves, they were like, "What is this movie about?"
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like that, with The Shining.
Yeah. Well,
For sure.
I'm glad that everyone gave it a second chance, and a third, and
Yeah.
a fourth, and a fifth, and all the way up to however many times people have watched it.
Yeah.
It's something that I enjoy watching occasionally, not all the time. But I know that a lot of people enjoy it, and there's a ton of diehard fans out there. Pun intended, dying fans out there.
Yeah. I've got a comment on the last scene where he's frozen to death.
Okay.
It just looks to me like that was a cheap scene. It doesn't look like he's frozen. It looks like a frozen image of him.
Okay. You
Super,
just talking about like just came up and took a picture?
Superimposed
Yeah.
on it. And so someone had brought up the fact that when you look at him take a drink for the first time in the ballroom, he makes that same face
Okay.
with his
Right.
eyes up, And so someone had taken that image of him and kind of faded it into the frozen image, and it matches exactly.
I
So
believe
I don't
it.
know if they took that and did some
Movie magic?
photo magic, with it way before Photoshop.
I don't know. He probably, again, with him being a method actor like he was, and he was so engrossed in the character that he was just able to replicate that, and he would,
Could
he
be.
was.
But from a movie making perspective, it looks superimposed
Right.
to me.
Yeah,
I could be
see
wrong.
that. No, I could see that.
And there's a legend out there that it was actually Jack Nicholson that did it and was frozen. Maybe they froze the image of him. Who knows? And some say it was a dummy that looked like Jack Nicholson.
Well, in reality, I mean, if they filmed, let's say he just held that pose for 5 seconds, held his breath, didn't move, held that pose for 5 seconds, they could slow it down.
Right.
And then it would look like, 1 second of real would last for, however long they wanted it to. So, I mean, there's so many ways they could have done that, even back then in 1980.
True.
So. Either way, it was
Yeah.
a fitting ending.
Yeah.
And he got his. The house got him. The mansion got him. The maze got him. So he didn't kill his family. They got out. They survived.
But
and,
somehow he was a part of the hotel.
He came
from
back full circle.
1922.
Yeah, he died there, and that
Yep.
he was the curator and came back and died there. And
Yep.
who knows? He may have went back there in another life. So.
Maybe if he signs off his rights for a digital actor, he can come back for another movie.
Maybe. I pity the director that tries to follow that up, though.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy. That would be rough. Whew.
What rating would you give it?
All right.
And what's your rating system?
All right, so I guess I'm gonna stick. I'm a Spider-Man fan through and through. If we're going to superhero, you've got yours. I'll stick with Spider-Man. I've got a Spider-Man poster up in my office. I mean, I've got to give this at least 8 out of 10 web slings. I mean, it's just there's no, you can't go any lower than that in my opinion.
Oh man, I think 5 out of 5 batarangs.
Okay, so you're using your 5 out of 5 scale.
Yeah.
All right, I'm using my 10 scale.
Yeah.
All right, that works. Whatever.
So it's a classic movie, and it'll
It
always
is.
be a classic movie.
It is.
And it's something that anybody can watch, from time to time. It's a little heavy on the language, but
It is, and so I'm sticking with my 8 out of 10. Because Shelley's portrayal as the wife, there were times where it just was painful to watch her, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
it's
so
true.
I get the Razzie Award reference that they gave for worst lead actress. But that's she, in my opinion, that was the weakest part, and even then she was still great. She was still a great actress. She played the character very well, and you could tell that she was actually, really, really, stressed and emotionally, traumatized by all of it. But there were times when I'm just like, it's just, I don't know. She just, you know what I mean? There's just times where it irked me, where it was almost cringy.
yeah.
So I'm sticking with my 8.
There was this video that I saw of all the little Shelley scenes of her being so horrified. It was almost downright funny.
Right.
Just the facial expressions,
Right.
and the horror that she had on her face, and it was hilarious, to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really good movie.
Yep.
And
I agree.
It stands up.
I'll watch it again next year.
Yeah. And it makes you want to stay at one of these hotels, And
It does.
It's not
Yeah.
just the Stanley Hotel. There's other hotels that they took inspiration from as well.
Right.
And so there's videos out there on YouTube of people visiting these hotels and
paying extra to do it.
Yeah. I won't be doing that.
Right.
I would like to, but yeah,
Awesome.
It's a good movie.
Awesome. I agree. Well,
So
until next time.
we'll see you again with
All right.
another spooky movie for this October month. Hopefully the lights will cooperate.
Yeah.
And we won't be in the dark.
We'll see. Bye-bye.
Bye.